Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the first episode of the Tinted Visors podcast. My name's Kenny, big Tampa and Vancouver fan. Throw it over to Caden.
What's up, guys? My name's Caden. Grew up in Vancouver, so a diehard Canucks fan. Also a big fan of Bo Horvat. That being said, let's get right into it.
Up and you won't hear a sound. I got 1,000 gunmen turning up, but they will.
All right, NHL season starts in a month. Kenny, who's your way too early Stanley Cup winner this season?
As much as I hate to say it, I think the Carolina Hurricanes got it this year. I think it's Stanley Cup or bust right now. They went all the way to the conference finals. They did that without Svechnikov, who they get back. They're missing Teravainen for a bit. He's back. They had Bunting. They had D'Angelo, Dmitry Orlov. I mean, they're deep all the way through. You look at the goaltenders as well. They have three main guys. They got Anderson, Ranta, and Kochetkov. I mean, just looking at the lineup, I don't see how they can lose. They got a lot of great players on very team-friendly deals. And, I think for them, it's you either win it right now or you're going to blow it up.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely one of the favorites heading into this season. Hopefully they can make it over the hump of the conference finals that has plagued them the past few years. So my pick here, no sleeper pick here. We're going out of the West. We're going with the Dallas Stars. Really like what they did this offseason. Arguably one of the deepest forward cores in the league. And adding Duchesne is only going to up the ante on the offense. Super young team with Robertson, Ottinger, Heiskanen, all looking to take another step this year. And if Ottinger can stay consistent between the pipes, the sky's the limit for them. I think they can absolutely take the cup home.
Yeah, that's a good pick. For all we know, we might see a Carolina-Dallas finals.
Would be crazy.
But we are 4 weeks out from opening night. We're going to look into, seeing as we're both Canucks fans, we're going to look into the Pacific Division right now. We both agreed that coming out of the Pacific Division on top at the end of the year, we've got the Edmonton Oilers. Can't really bet against them. They got two of the best players in the world right now. They've only added on the offseason. They're bringing in Connor Brown. They brought in Matthias Ekholm with the last trade deadline. What I'd like to see is Evan Bouchard to continue to make progress throughout his career. He did real well in the playoffs, and I can only see him getting better now. And as well, I think Stuart Skinner needs to step up a little bit. They have sort of a one AOP situation going on in net with Campbell and Skinner. And right now, I think it's Skinner's net to lose, and I think he's very capable of doing it. But I think the season might rely on how well he does.
Absolutely, I agree with you there. It's hard to bet against McDavid, even though the defending champs are in the division. It's hard to bet against the Oilers and McDavid after seeing what they did with Ekholm after the trade deadline. They went on some ridiculous tear. Like you said, Stuart Skinner is going to make or break this team. They really need some consistency between the pipes. And Evan Bouchard primed for a breakout year. Really showed up during the playoffs last year, quarterbacking that power play. It'll be a good season for the Oilers. All right, so coming in second in the Pacific Division, we have the defending champions, the Vegas Golden Knights. Coming off obviously a fantastic season, backed by Eichel, and the addition of Barbashev at the trade deadline really pushed the Golden Knights over the edge. But this year, in order to repeat or give themselves the path to repeat, I think a lot of it hinges on Jack Eichel's health. They did lose some depth pieces in Riley Smith, some character guys like Jonathan Quick and Phil Kessel. So if Jack Eichel can stay healthy, watch out for the Golden Knights because they could very easily go back-to-back.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Vegas still looks like a very strong team. I think signing Barbashev was real key onto a very, very team-friendly contract as well. There's a lot of consistent guys there. Marchessault's there, William Karlsson's still there, as well the blue line with Theodore and Pietrangelo. So if those guys can stay consistent, and like you said, if Eichel can be healthy and can produce 70, maybe even point per game pace, they're going to be real deadly coming out of the Pacific. Coming in at number 3 on the list, we have a team who made a couple big splashes in the offseason, picking up Pierre-Luc Dubois, re-signing Gavrikov. We have the LA Kings. They've shown year in year that they've been a consistent team. Down the middle right now, Kopitar, Danault, Pierre-Luc Dubois, like I said, with guys like Byfield and Turcotte coming up, I think they're going to be real deep. I think that blue line still looks real good, especially even though they lost Sean Dursey to Arizona. The one question I do have, and that might impact their season the greatest, would be the goaltending issue. didn't really go out and get a starter this offseason. They lost Corpusalo to free agency. They lost Quick, obviously, last year to the trade deadline. So we'll see if the goaltending can keep it up and can match the pace that the defense and offense will have. But if they can do that, I think the Kings will be real good. I think they'll look real good with Kempe up front and Fiala.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you. I think someone who does have to step up for the Kings here in order for them to have some success this year is Quinton Byfield. Obviously, the former number 2 overall pick hasn't really lived up to it. And to me, this season for him is make or break. He's got to take that step this year and help this Kings offense out. And if he does look out, they could also make some noise out of the Pacific. Coming in 4th place in the Pacific Division, claiming the first wildcard spot, we have the Seattle Kraken. Coming off a huge upset last year in the first round over the Avalanche and putting up a pretty good fight against the Stars. We have the Kraken, obviously, making a return to the playoffs. And I think a big key for them is obviously going to be Matty Beniers. Needs to take another step, try to avoid that sophomore slump that we see quite a bit of from players in the league, and really establish himself as a first-line center in this league.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the Kraken, the only direction for them is up right now. They're a growing trend, and I do have to disagree with you there. I think Beniers, he's going to do well. I think the season more depends on the defense, and more specifically Vince Dunn. He had a great breakout season last year, and he was rewarded with a very hefty contract. So he's got to back that up. He's got to make sure that's worth it for them and for himself. And then obviously his supporting cast with Adam Larson, Jamie Oleksiak. I think I think the defense really needs to step up here. That being said, the forward group is very strong. And one little bright spot that came out of last season was Ty Cartier. Had a very good season in the AHL and had a really solid 5 points in 10 games for the Seattle Kraken. And I expect him to have a very, very big role coming up this season for them. Coming in at number 5, taking the second wild card spot, meaning the Central Division will only have 3 spots. We have the Vancouver Canucks. Might be a little biased there, but we do believe in the group. Just recently announced Quinn Hughes as the captain. He's going to take a big step forward. I think Pettersson will continue to keep taking steps forward. I do think Miller will have a little bit of bounce back there. I think a lot of the depth guys will need to step up, and I think they're very capable of doing so. With Demko back for a full season, we hope that he can do a lot better, just health-wise and performance-wise. But I think the pieces are there. Obviously, no first or second finish for them, but I think just getting to the playoffs will make the players happy, will make the fans happy. And then from there, I think anything can happen, right? You saw, just like you mentioned with Seattle, they had an upset over the first place in the division. And we'll see what Vancouver does. But that's our pick for number 5.
No, absolutely. Call it wishful thinking if you will, but the problem with the Canucks going into the offseason was their defense, and they addressed that in the offseason, signing Carson Soucy and signing Ian Cole, 2 very big, solid, reliable D-men to help out that blue line. But yeah, like you said, the depth guys will need to step up. The bottom 6 is not great, but if they can have a good year, watch out, because you never know. It could be this year's Seattle Kraken, like you said. All right, coming in 6th place in the Pacific Division, we have the Calgary Flames. Not quite bad enough to be like a lottery pick and in contention for the number 1 overall pick, but not quite good enough to make the playoffs. Pretty mediocre team. I do expect a very big bounce back year from Jonathan Huberdeau, who had a very rough first year with Calgary. And I think their success does hinge on him quite a bit. We saw Tkachuk, what he could do for Florida, and a lot of people are saying Florida won the trade, which they did. Huberdeau needs to step up and kind of show that he deserves that long-term contract they just gave him.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the Flames did too much in the offseason to really make a change. I think they're banking on a lot of the guys, like you said, Huberdeau, to make a bounce back. But I think with a lot of guys earlier in the summer saying, they might not want to come back, I know that's died down a little bit, but I can't help think that's going to be a distraction for most of the guys during the season. But that being said, they do have a good roster. Losing Toffoli it's a pretty big loss, but they do have other guys up front, Elias Lindholm, like you said, Huberdeau, guys on the back, Uyghur, Tanev, Noah Hannafin, Rasmus Anderson. But I think the big key for them, if they do want a chance at the playoffs, is going to be Jacob Markstrom. I I think he needs to have a bounce back season. He needs to prove his $6 million contract. He has in the past, and I think he can again. But I think the confidence needs to come back. His swagger needs to come back, and that'll really help the team if they can push for the playoffs.
No, absolutely. If Markstrom can stay consistent, this Flames team can really get rolling. And someone else up front that I do want to mention that needs to have a big year, breakout year almost, is the main piece they acquired back in that Toffoli trade, Igor Sharangovich. A young winger. I think he can flourish in a bigger role with Calgary, and have like a 20-goal year, 60-point season would be a good breakout year for him.
At number 7, second last in the division, but making an improvement from last year. I do think the Anaheim Ducks will play a little better. They did get a lot more pieces this year, adding Leo Carlsson, adding guys like Radko Gudas and Alex Killorn, albeit to some pretty hefty contracts, but they do have the space for it. I think a lot of the young guys will take steps forward, most notably, Jamie Drysdale, Trevor Zegras, Troy Terry as well. I do think they're a better team. One guy I would like to see to make a little more noise would be Mason McTavish. He had a very good rookie season. I only think he can get better from that. I think he's, like a 60 to 70 point player next year. I really do, especially with the amount of time he's going to get. One little distraction the team might have during the season would be John Gibson. Maybe seeing what really happens with him, whether he stays, whether he goes. I think the best for both parties would just be to move on from him and hopefully get something back from now before, trade value loses or he just walks at free agency sometime.
No, absolutely. As long as they can re-sign Zegras, this center depth that they have with McTavish, Zegras, and Leo Carlsson is going to be the best in the league for years to come after they develop. And I think a full year of Jamie Drysdale will be a key part to watch on that young Ducks team. All right, rounding out the Pacific Division, we have the San Jose Sharks. Should be in contention for the number 1 overall pick. They didn't have a great year last year, but they did get Will Smith at 4. And to be honest, I really don't hate their forward core this year. Led by guys like Couture and Hurdle still there. They have Anthony Duclair now, picking up Zadina. Hopefully he can bounce back. They have Kevin Labanc as well. Like, that forward core is not necessarily too bad, but their D core is nothing crazy, nothing to write home about.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a tough season for them, but it's what expected, right? I don't think there's too much hope in that fan base right now, but the rebuild's in full swing. They got rid of Burns last season, Carlson this season, and they got a lot of exciting prospects coming up. Like you mentioned, Will Smith. He doesn't make the jump right away though. I think he's committed to Boston College. They got guys like William Eklund, Tommy Bordelot, a bunch of guys that could be real exciting. Like you said as well, the forward group, it's nothing terrible, but the defense, you got Mario Ferraro, and that's all you can really write home about. There's not too much there. So it'll be a long season for them. The best outcome for them really is the first overall spot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They do have Logan Couture, their captain. My question for you is, do they trade him at the deadline, or do they keep him around to kind of mentor these young guys and kind of help them develop?
I think they keep him around. He's been around his whole career. He's been committed to what they've built in San Jose. And it's not like they're looking to flip and be good right away. They do have a bunch of years down the road before they start being good. And, I think at that point it's up to him whether he wants to be there for the rebuild or if he wants to go somewhere to win. I got to say, it's not the easiest contract to move. Looking at cap space right now, although it will rise, at this point, there's not many teams that have, I believe it's around $8 million in space for him. But again, it's what he wants. It's whether he wants to go or stay. But losing a guy like him would be pretty sad for the Sharks organization, for sure.
All right, so in light of that Jake Sanderson mega deal that was signed a few days ago, just wanted to touch on big contracts to young players and your thoughts on them. Like, we've seen contracts given out to guys like Jack Hughes, Tim Stutzel, and the fan base is obviously in an uproar right away saying overpay, like it's not going to work out. And then a few years down the road, we see it absolutely working out for the organization. So what are your thoughts on, handing out these mega deals to young players?
Yeah, like you said, it's becoming a big trend. Back in the day, it used to be, a bridge deal, 3 or 4 mil, 3 years or so, and then you get your big deal when you're 26 years old or whatever. Um, that's not what's happening anymore. Like you said, Jack Hughes got that 8-year deal, Stutzel 8-year deal, Kale McCarr. The list goes on. Caulfield, Boldy, all those guys, they get long-term deals right out of the ELCs. Um, and as far as I can think, I can't really think of many that haven't turned out well. Obviously people are mad when Jack Hughes gets all that money. He hasn't proved it. And obviously Sanderson is young. It's only his first season, so who really knows what could happen? But we've seen time and time again these contracts working out for the teams, and they end up being way under the player's value at the time. I mean, Stutzel is not an $8 million player, right? Neither is Jack Hughes. Neither is Kellen McCarr. They're all worth so much more, but because the teams were able to get those deals done early, they get rewarded. And on the flip side, you look at Austin Matthews. He does the short-term deal, and now he's making what's the contract? 13.5 mil. Like
Yeah,
it's
13 point
crazy,
something.
and that's what Jack Hughes would be doing had he done a 3-year deal, and then he'd be trying to become one of the highest paid players. It's working out great for the teams. It's working out great for the players. They get, you know, very secure jobs for 8 years, and then who knows what happens later. Maybe they get even more in 8 years, right? But it's interesting to see the shift in mentality with general managers, and props to those agents. It's a lot of money given out to those young kids. But yeah, it's good to see for sure.
No, absolutely. Just wanted to touch back on the Matthews point there. He obviously just signed. He's the highest paid player in the league when that contract hits, and it's I think a 4-year deal, and it takes him until he's 30. And as we've seen with guys like Huberdeau, guys like Kadri, guys like JT Miller, they still get paid after 30. We see like these 8-year deals still being handed out. So, Matthews has put himself in a great position to get another bag after this contract is expired. He'll be 30, he'll probably get an 8-year deal from a team, and it'll be, after the cap rises, a ridiculous amount of money.
And that's right. Let's looking more at like what's good for the player, right? For Matthews, that's his best deal. For the Leafs, I can't see why that makes so much sense for them. And giving those older players those long-term deals, those are the long-term deals that are looking worse and worse, right? Like the kids are doing fine, but you look at Seth Jones, right? Darnell Nurse, JT Miller, we're very familiar with that contract. Those are the ones that aren't looking very good, and those are the ones that are essentially hindering the teams. I mean, where could Vancouver be if they have $2 or $3 extra million that we don't give to JT? Where would Edmonton be if they're not giving $9 million to Darnell Nurse?
No, absolutely. It can really cripple a team and hinder them from success. Just staying on the topic of young players getting these 8-year mega deals, one is actually still unsigned for this year, Trevor Zegras, and another big name, Elias Pettersson, has become a hot topic lately. He's due for a contract at the end of this season. So what do you think their contracts look like, both the guys? Is it more like a bridge deal, or do you see them getting the 8 years?
I think Zegras, I think he'd be happy with 8 years and probably around Jack Hughes money, right? 8 years, 8 million. What I've been hearing right now is that both sides aren't really agreeing on the money, and it looks like it might go down to a shorter bridge deal with maybe $4 or $5 million at play, which it wouldn't be the worst thing. He might be able to really come to like the city and the project and what they're building in Anaheim, and it might make him stay even longer after that. But on the flip side, it might turn into what we see with Pettersson right now, who you could argue is just not 100% happy with the team situation.
No, absolutely. Petey has said he wants to win, and obviously the Canucks haven't delivered that outside of their little run in the bubble in 2020. And contract negotiations have stopped as the season is going to start. Pettersson has said that he wants to wait until next offseason to negotiate a contract, and I think that contract hinges a lot on the Canucks' success this season. So it's almost a make or break season for the Canucks, because we could see a situation like Matthew Tkachuk next offseason. Who knows? Like with the Calgary Flames, who just kind of forces his way out. And that's the last thing Canucks fans and Canucks management wants to see with Pettersson. We see him as a Canuck for life, and we want to lock him up. So I think it's really crucial that the Canucks have a good year And whether it's a bridge deal or an 8-year deal, I think the number one priority is just getting him locked up in Vancouver.
Yeah, 100% agree. Locked up, hopefully long term, hopefully team friendly deal. But yeah, it's not even whether they have a good year; it's whether they have a good start. I think just the first couple months of the season, it's so important on not just the playoff hopes, but PD hopes, right? You want him to stay, you want to build around him and Hughes, and that's what they have been doing, and that's what they need to continue to do. But as you brought up, a similar situation might happen with Matthew Tkachuk, right? You see him, force his way out. That's another topic with players sort of getting drafted by a team and then basically forcing their hand out of that team. You see it with Adam Fox, who's with Carolina, Calgary, forced his way to New York Rangers, and then coincidentally, you see Jimmy Vesey, who had his rights was with Nashville, and then as well forced his way to the Rangers. Do you have any thoughts about sort of forcing their way? Do you think they've earned the right to basically dictate where they want to go so early in their career? Do you think that they owe it to the team to play at least two, maybe the full ELC with them?
No, I do believe they owe it to the team that gave them a chance, took a chance on them to draft them, to at least play out, the ELC, even though they would be an RFA after. I don't think it's very fair to the team to just kind of say, because Adam Fox was only going to play for the New York Rangers. He was never going to play a game for the Flames, was never going to play a game for anyone, not the Hurricanes either, just the Rangers. And he got what he wanted, which is, it's a team that took a chance on you, that drafted you, and gave you the chance to kind of chase the dream that every kid has when they play hockey, to make it to the NHL. So I don't think it's right, and I think it's good that we don't see it super often.
Like you said, it's tough because they've done so much in their career where they've earned the right to do what they want to do, essentially. But at the end of the day, that team took a chance on you, and the last thing you want to see is for the NHL to sort of turn into like the NBA maybe, and where players are forcing their way out, making these super teams, going to teams that they want to go to right away. They owe it to the teams who drafted them. You see with Jimmy Vesey, he forced his way out of Nashville. He would have made the team. He would have done well. I hoped he would have done well with Nashville, but he went to Rangers, and right away, I think it might have been the year or 2 years after that, the Predators went to the Stanley Cup final. Granted they lost, but how differently would have his career gone, and how differently would that Stanley Cup final have gone if he was in that lineup? He hasn't had the most successful career. He's bounced around a lot. He ended up back with the Rangers, but he forced his way to the Rangers. He got what he wanted, and his career hasn't really panned out. He was a very good college player, and I think if he'd stuck with Nashville, fine, just 3 years, that's fine. If he just stuck with Nashville, maybe they could have won. Maybe he would have been happy. Maybe his career would have developed better. The Rangers, a lot of people say they can't really develop their players, right? Do you agree? I mean, the Lafreniere, Kakko,
yeah.
Guys like that, right?
No, absolutely. Niels Lundqvist, another example of, the Rangers failing to develop their top prospects. So on the flip side, though, a situation like Matthew Tkachuk, a situation we're all very familiar with, a player who at the end of his contract was a restricted free agent and basically forced his way out of a city. What are your thoughts on that?
That's where it gets a little different. I made a big deal about, playing out the LC, giving back to the team that drafted you, and that's exactly what he did. He did so much for that team, 100+ points, very disappointing end of that season with Edmonton knocking them out. I personally, I thought they were going to make it to the conference finals, make it even further than that. So it's different for me for that. I do agree with his decision. It did factor, I think, on, Johnny Gaudreau leaving. And then as well, reports came out after that he did want to stay longer, and Treliving wouldn't give him that contract, right? He didn't want to commit so early, so he gave him that bridge deal. And that's, that was his mistake, and Tkachuk took advantage, and Tkachuk left, and props to him, right? He played an amazing season this year, dragged his team to Stanley Cup Finals. They did have help, right? I mean, Bobrovsky played amazing, but Tkachuk was the main piece of that team, and so yeah, I made a big deal about forcing your way out, but for him, I think he earned that right. I think he really he gave Calgary his all, and to a certain extent, Calgary did not give him his all, right? For living didn't want to give him that contract, right? I did bring up Bobrovsky earlier, where everyone's sort of familiar with his contract and how that sort of panned out throughout his tenure with the Florida Panthers. Obviously, this year he did sort of make up for a little bit of it, but I think it's regarded as one of the worst in the NHL. I would assume. But speaking of worst contracts, let's go over some, right? I mean, Jeff Skinner, 9 mil. Like I mentioned earlier, Darnell Nurse. You got Kevin Hayes signed back with Philly. You
Ooh.
got guys like Alex Killorn just signed, right?
What's his contract?
Alex Killorn, I think he got 3 years at 6.25.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
I mean, you could say the Jamie Benn and the Tyler Seguin ones. They're both like just over 9 mil, I believe, both of them.
yeah,
Those were bad. The Parise and Suter ones back in the day by the Wild,
oh yeah.
still crippling them to this
Back
day.
when they could do more than 8 years.
Oh, that
Those are
was.
those are hefty, and they're
Ooh.
they're still paying them off. That's why Minnesota they're handicapped right now with a little bit of buyout penalty. Um, but yeah, those are guys that it's flipped like we were talking about. Those guys that had earned the money, right, and they cash in, and now the kids are basically getting paid for what they're hoping to earn, right? They're cashing in early.
Right.
But it's tough when you got, like you said, Dallas, right? That's a team that wants to compete, and those two guys, as good as the presence that they bring with veteran status, what is it, 500 plus points each, bunch of games on hand. It's $20 million tied up with two
Yeah.
players, right?
Oh, and it's
Even not even old guys like the Leafs, right? You're paying 11 to Tavares, 11 to Marner. Now next year you're gonna do 13 to Matthews. Nylander, I don't even know. What do you think about Nylander? Does he even fit in with that four anymore? Riley's making like 8.
oh, yeah. I don't even know if Nylander can even. I think he has to get traded or he walks. Like I don't think they have the cap anymore to sign him. Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, as much as he's stated he wants to stay, I think like they literally cannot keep him. It's so much money tied up in these guys that he's going to be the odd man out. As much as he's going to hate it, as much as Toronto's going to hate it, it's going to suck for them. And I wonder if maybe he follows his one of his close friends, Rasmus Sandin, and goes to maybe Washington, and who knows? Maybe they try to make another run with Ovechkin. They still got Kuznetsov there. Who knows if he'll stay? But I mean, they've got a solid, core in Washington that they can sort of build around.
Yeah, it's tough for Nylander, especially when he sees all his teammates and they're all cashing in, all taking these big deals, and then Toronto will come to him during negotiations and say, "This is what we can offer you." He's not going to take a pay cut if no one around him is. He's going to want to get paid too. So it's tough to envision a future with Nylander still as a Maple Leaf.
Exactly. You see teams like, Pittsburgh, Crosby took a pay cut. Then sort of Malkin took less money. That means Letang took less money, right? Back when they all signed, because they're all committed to this. I don't blame Nylander if he wants to make $10 million. His whole team's making $10 million, right? Like, if they're going to hand out those contracts to everyone, why is it fair for them to go to him and be like, here's 7. This is what we can offer you. This might not be what we think you're worth, but this is all we have. If I were him, I'd be insulted. I'd want to leave immediately. But I do respect him for wanting to stay, wanting to believe in the core. I think they showed this year that they are taking steps forward, as slow as those steps are. They are getting better. Nylander had a great year. He deserves a lot of money, but it's just money that they don't have right now.
Yeah. I think the best example of the people taking pay cuts would probably be the Boston Bruins. Of the 2010s, I would imagine it's the Boston Bruins. Guys like Marchand, guys like Bergeron, Krejci, these guys who wouldn't take a big payday in order to keep their core together. And look what happened to the Bruins. They had years of success and years of cup contention. And it's tough to see a team as talented as the Maple Leafs with all these guys taking these massive paydays, and it doesn't lead to success.
yeah, that's a great example, right? Marshawn's still, playing out that contract of, just over $6 million. That guy has 100-point season, and he's making that little money, right? So it's an interesting world right now, with all those big contracts. But we'll have to see what the Leafs do. It's right now for me, it's cup or bust this season, because if not, I think they lose Nylander. I think they're going to have to decide what they want to do with Tavares, right? I mean, he's only getting older. As unbiased as I want to sound, I don't think he's worth that money. And then, you have a lot of other contracts, TJ Brody, Matt Murray still with the organization. Even Morgan Riley, he makes a lot of money. As good as he is, he's nearing 30, and he's making around $8 million.
No, definitely a big year needed from the Maple Leafs. It'll be, super excited to watch this NHL season. Obviously, like just all these stories, but that is a big one for sure to keep an eye on.
So, most exciting team to watch, we got the Senators, they're coming up. The Red Wings, they're coming up. The Sabres, they're coming up. Maybe it's just Bedard carrying the Blackhawks. Give me one, maybe two teams that you're most excited to watch.
That's a great question. I think one of the teams that has to be mentioned still is the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid is just such a treat to watch. Easily the most skilled player in NHL history. He's unbelievable. It is so great to watch the Oilers play hockey. As for another team, I like watching the Avalanche. As basic as this sounds, Nathan McKinnon, watching him skate, Cale Makar with his edge work. It's unbelievable. It is so great to watch, and it's what makes hockey so great. How about you? What are your, other than the Tampa Bay Lightning?
As much as I like watching my Tampa Bay Lightning win, I will have to say, I've been an Ottawa fan for, back, I think it's 2017 when they went almost all the way. But guys like Turris, guys like Mark Stone, Mike Hoffman, all somewhere else now. But that team is really good, and they're on the come up again. Josh Norris, Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, and now you got, like we mentioned, Sanderson, Shabbat on the back line. Hopefully Korpisalo can do well. I think the Atlantic, there are going to be some falling teams. Like we mentioned, I think Boston might fall out, and I think there'll be a few teams that are vying for that spot. But another team that I think we should mention is the Devils. It's another young team, another team that took a very big step forward this year. And how can you not like watching two brothers play on the same team, have a boatload of fun together, right? And two is enough, by the way. We don't want Quinn joining them. They have enough Hughes on the team. They don't need any more. But guys on that team, the young guys, Mercer, Heischer, they're gonna be real good for sure. All right, guys, to wrap up our first ever episode. First of all, thanks again for listening. But we're gonna run a few trivia games. We'll just go back and forth. You guys can play along in the comments too. But just to have some fun, end it off with some light, fun games. Debates can always get pretty heated, so we always want to end each episode with some trivia. It's just some ways to sort of test our knowledge. And again, you guys want to pause and play along, you're more than welcome to do so. So for my first question to Caden, you're going to go with a career path.
Okay.
I did warn him. It's a little hard. I just got to look it up. I'm going to read it off the list. You want every single team?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. So we're going to go Ottawa.
Okay.
Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina. Ottawa. Arizona. San Jose.
Are they current?
They last season was in the AHL 2022-2023. I believe they've signed a PTO as of today.
As of today?
Yeah.
Oof.
Not necessarily meaning today, but
right.
I would focus on the first four.
I'm trying to think of Ottawa, Columbus, but I can't.
Yeah.
Nothing comes to me. Where are they right now? Because Ottawa, Columbus, all I can think of is Anthony Duclair. And Arizona makes
try out with Arizona. That was a week ago.
Ottawa, Columbus. There's no Nashville, right? So it's not Kyle Turris. And oh my
God. Go for a hint?
Huh?
You want a hint?
Yeah, give me the hint.
He was not in the same trade, but it was the same year that they traded Duchesne to Columbus. It was like days
Oh my
later.
gosh, is it Ryan? Ryan? I don't want to say his last
Ryan
name.
Dzingel.
Dezingle. Oh baby,
Boom.
that was a good
Ryan
one.
Dzingel.
Okay.
Let us know if you guys got that before Caden did.
Oof.
We're gonna
No-
cut out some time.
Yeah, no way we're putting that whole thing in there.
Yeah. You want me to
Yeah,
give
yeah.
you-
No, I have a career path for you.
Okay.
It's nothing crazy. Current player. I won't give you his current team. He switched teams this offseason. So
Okay.
he started his career in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went to Boston.
Okay.
And then Washington. And now his current team.
Washington is his current
No,
team?
no, no. He has a different current team.
Nashville, Boston, Washington. Give me Craig Smith.
Oh my god.
Boom.
Bonus point if you
Boom.
can name his current team. Ooh.
See, I was Dallas.
Yeah. Okay. See, if you guys couldn't tell, Kenny's hockey knowledge is a little bit better than mine. Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay. For some redemption.
Here we
You
go.
want the easier one or the little harder one?
Ooh.
We'll go with the harder one.
Okay,
We'll go with the
sure,
harder
sure,
one.
sure.
Can you name me the last 10 players, so different players, the last 10 to win the Norris Trophy?
To win the Norris.
Yep.
Okay, Eric Carlson last year.
Yep.
Roman Yossi won one, didn't he?
Yep.
Okay.
2 for 2.
Last 10 players. Okay, now I'm going out of order here. Shea Weber won one.
He's not one of the last
You
10 players. He has
didn't?
not won one,
Okay.
actually.
Last 10. Kel McCarr has one.
Cale McCarr does have one. He
Okay.
won it the year before Carlson.
Okay, so it went Carlson, McCarr, Yossi. So what year are we
Missing
at?
one. You're missing one right there.
No, this is hard, man. Is Nick Lidstrom on the list?
He's on the Norris list. He's not one of the last 10, though.
Did Drew Doughty ever win a Norris?
Drew Doughty is one of the top 10.
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
One of the
okay.
last 10, sorry.
Did Zdeno Chara ever win a Norris?
He did, but it was before
Oh,
Lidstrom. So
killing
not in the
me.
top 10.
Killing me.
So that's the 3 lives there. Do you want me to read them out? You want to keep going?
Oh, I had 3 lives. Oh, okay. Well, I can't say the same player twice, can I?
No.
Okay. I'll just throw the towel in. What do we got?
So the 3 years ago one, right before McCarr, was Adam Fox.
Right.
Then you got Mark Giordano, Hedman, Burns,
Eddie Burns.
and
Yeah,
Duncan
okay.
Keith.
Phew. That was tough. Okay. I have one. It's guess the player, but it's no career path. I'll just give you some facts about the player. I will tell you right now, he's not currently playing. He's retired. Okay. So he was on the 2010 Team Canada gold medal winning Olympic team. Okay.
For context, we were 7 years old when this happened. Just so you know.
He played for the Tampa Bay Lightning
Okay.
at a certain point in his career.
I can guess it right now.
You feel like you can guess it right now?
Yeah.
Who is it?
He played a game for sure.
A point in his career, he played for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
So I'm gonna assume it's not Brent Seabrook because he never played a game. That's what you mean.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with Brendan Morrow.
Oh my gosh. It is
that
Brendan
it?
Morrow. I didn't even get to the last fact.
What was the last point?
I was going to say he had over 100 penalty minutes in a season several times in his career.
That would not have helped me, to be honest. I don't know much about Brendan Morrow, but I do know the 2 facts.
Wow. That is, wow. Shouldn't have brought up a player from his favorite team.
All right, you want one more? One last one?
No.
Easy one?
Done embarrassing me. We'll do one more, sure.
The last 2 might be hard, but we'll give you 3 lives again.
Okay.
It's the last 10 different teams to win the Stanley Cup.
Oh, okay. Last 10 different teams?
Yep. So if a team won back-to-back, that just counts as one team.
Okay. So we'll
So
start.
I'll give for context. It'll date back until 2007.
Okay. Okay, so we'll start with the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep.
Okay, and then give me the Colorado Avalanche.
He's got 2 for 2.
Okay, we'll go with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Well, let's go with the Tampa Bay Lightning, 3 for 3.
Okay, we'll go with the Washington Capitals. Skip a year.
Okay, 4 for
Then
4.
we'll go back to the St. Louis Blues.
There you go.
We got 5. Okay. Give me
He's on fire.
the Pittsburgh Penguins.
There's 6.
Little back-to-back action. We'll go with the Chicago Blackhawks.
There's 7.
The LA Kings.
8.
Boston Bruins.
There's 9.
Ooh. Dates back to 07?
Sorry, I miscounted. 08. 08.
Oh.
This is where.
I know, this is where the lives will go here. Give me the Detroit Red Wings.
There we go. 10
Bang.
for 10. No
Bang.
lives lost.
There we go. There we
There
go.
you go.
Setting the tone for next episode, hey?
All right, is that all we got?
I think that's all for today.
That's all we got, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. Obviously, it's our first episode, so if you'd like to see anything else, if there's anything we can improve on, just comment down below. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. We'd love to hear your opinions on anything we brought up today. Let us know if you guys got any of those trivia questions. We'll be back with plenty more throughout the next couple of weeks, and we'll have a next episode for you guys next week as well. Caden, you want to say anything before we go out?
No, absolutely. If you've listened this far, just thanks for tuning in, and this is just the beginning from us.
I got 1,000 gunmen turning up, but they will gun you down. Oh, you know she wild inside emoji, oh, you got a frown. Tomato to my haters, hope you get lost and you don't get found. Youngin' from Toronto, so you know I like my paper brown. I got 1,000 gunmen turning up, but they will gun you down. Oh, you know she wild inside emoji, oh, you got a frown. Tomato to my haters, hope you get lost and you don't get